Good evening, everyone, and a happy welcome to our second episode of Art and Learning. Doubly overwhelming because we have two beautiful sisters, one after the other with their views, and Pan and Mum are here. And Pan has told his mama that I remember last time you were telling me that art is not just about drawing. So, Mama has some placards ready and she's going to quickly show them to Pan and just tell him that what all art can cover and how he can start thinking out of the box. So he said that Pan, you will have you'll become inquisitive, you'll have a healthy mind, you'll develop some wonder, you'll develop some good attitudes, some visual memory, visual discrimination, knowing different things, life skills, so important. You'll understand order, you'll understand family and fun time, storytelling, motor skills and movement, creativity and imagination, kindness. You will be nurturing people and cultures. You will develop a scientific attitude. You will be able to touch and feel things, and there'll be sensorial development. There will be theater, there will be mindfulness, there will be questioning, there will be discipline, and so much more. So, to help us to think out of that box, the paint box, the crayon box, the pencil box, the color box, we have Mandakini Mathur with us. A very warm welcome to you.
Hello, Sonia. I'm delighted to be here amongst you all.
Thank you. So the introduction that I have for Mandakini ji is I always tell everybody that I ask for everyone's profile, Mandakini ji, but I don't really feel that anybody's introduction profile is enough. And we have been blessed on this platform that the most beautiful people have actually come and been with us. So for me, Mandakini ji, if I can explain your profile to me, is somebody with a very sweet voice, extremely kind eyes, and when I see you touch your artifacts, I can feel the magic. All the way, I have never met you. But if I have to describe you, I would go and say that somebody who lives art. So we would like you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your journey and how you've reached here. I know it's a long story, but
I know. I think, it feels strange when you show a mirror to yourself. But I think I'll begin with how we came to Panchkani. So before that, I was doing my studies in JNU French, and then I was in Paris for a year, where I did filmmaking as a subject. But when we decided, and I was teaching French in Bombay, and this was 25 years ago when we decided to come to Panchkani. And now it seems like a very brave decision, but that time we were just kind of following an urge to try out. And we thought if it wouldn't work out, we would go back. We had a house there, and Atul had a portfolio, I too, and we would resume. So that's how we came to Panchkani, and with our kids who were just 7 or 6 and 3 then, 2 boys. And Atul, I knew I could teach in schools, I could do anything. But for Atul, it was quite a leap in the dark. And thankfully, it has worked out. So if I were to describe myself, it looked like even I became a filmmaker after coming to Panchkani, because I had never actually shot films. So it was my way of connecting with nature and exploring. Then I started interacting with children in one of the schools here, one of the mainstream schools. Panchkani is full of boarding schools and very eminent schools and all. So anyway, I started doing a bit of filmmaking and theater with them. And as a means of exploring their own creativity and exploring the world around them, exploring issues, exploring themselves, relationships, growing up, all that, but through the medium of filmmaking. And uh, so I started making small films, and and that was the time. In fact, even Rudranchar, we had just got this camcorder, and the first film, Birds Through My Window, which Rudranch made when he was 13 years old. And that film got him the best Golden Tree Award at Vatavaran International Film Festival in Delhi. And with the prize money, we got a Mac, and the editing started happening. So a small little home production house started. So I would come up with stories, and Rudransh was, even though so young, much more tech savvy. So he would edit films, and it all began like that. And those days, now imagine this is 25 years ago, when I started with filmmaking with children, it was quite a new thing. Nobody thought of that. And it was very nice for the school, the trustee, to, have that faith that it is much needed to teach children this kind of skill and all that. So it began like that. And then, of course, I made a film for the films division, looking for a god with River Krishna. So I traveled all along the river from Mahabaleshwar, where the river starts, and where it ends in Machilipatnam. So this really opened my eyes to many, many stories, and exploring what forms the Indic, the substratum of all our culture. It was as if the river was kind of threading its way, and the sutra that was joining all the cultures, different languages, different, but there's underlying something which binds us all. So then, of course, a feature film and all that, and the journey began. And after many years, 15 years ago, in fact, Devrai Art Village happened. So now I'm more into writing scripts and writing stories, and also working with artists and artisans here, and creating something which evolves tradition, because I feel Indian tradition is vibrantly alive. And if you want to sustain it, and if you cannot preserve it by, like, as if you were preserving a museum piece, it has to respond to the present day challenges and all this. So then how do you make it relevant? Because without, the spirit, essentially Indian in spirit, but with that kind of universal appeal, so that people will take what we are making or see what we are creating and get interested. So now Devrai Art Village has become like a bridge between the mainstream and far-flung tribal areas. And we have interns coming from design schools and all this thing, so exposure to our indigenous arts. Even individuals come and we customize workshops. And now I'm really excited to be part of the UGC board for the advisory board for art and aesthetics. So creating that interface between education and arts, because there's so much emphasis on art integrated learning. So the idea is wonderful, but where, the implementation, how? So the whole system is grappling with that, and then COVID happened and all that. So that's how it all, and I think that is what connects us today, because I can see what Square Panda is also trying to do to make education more relevant and joyous.
And you know what you said, that it's very nice that we all visualize that the NEP or the new policies are asking us to do art integration. But when I invited you, I also wanted to ask you to just talk to us about the fact that when you have something like a beautiful place like a Devrai art village, which is out in the open. It's got artists, it's got so much of science and art together. Um, is that one way that schools, parents, in even organizations, we normally do this program for early years, Mandakini, for earlier parents, teachers. But for me, when I invited you, I thought, as a perspective, how would you tell us that if I have a child and I feel that, that the child needs a bit more, would a visit to a place like yours should it become a part of my, thought for the child? Can schools actually approach you all and say, can we bring our children over? I just want you to talk to us about that part of it, because we don't put this into perspective at all.
Yeah. So when somebody comes and if I ask them, what are you taking back with you? So it's not what is being made, or that is, of course, there, the art, but it's the whole ambiance, the ecosystem, to see the connect between how these artifacts, where is the inspiration coming from? So, so many of our products directly, it's nature that is inspiring us. For instance, Durga, can you get that leaf from we have created a fridge magnet, okay, with a real leaf.
I saw your door handles.
Door handles, yes.
Oh my God,
And you're like, imagine now, this is a real mirchi, which is being cast. So nature is unique. Each leaf is unique. So each product, each piece of art has to have its own story. So that's how when we connect at a deeper level with the creation of Prakriti and God, which is there, we see that although is the same species of tree or the same this thing, it has its own unique stamp. And that is what creativity, I think, is all about. So a child has to be exposed, like you said, when you were showing your placards, curiosity, wonder, that sense of, well, you have to kindle, if you kindle that wonderment and that eagerness to explore, the rest will follow. So that should be the aim of the a school or teacher. This, then the child will discover herself. Like, I don't know who, I think Rabindranath Tagore has said, it's like lighting a lamp. It's not stuffing a child with, it's kindling that. Then they will know. So like I was, yeah, she's got this leaf. Now see, look at this kind of texture of each leaf which has come out. So this, it when people see our pieces of art, it's not just the skill one is exposed to, but also where is this inspiration coming from? Like, and then we have different kinds of inputs. Although I started work with a group of Adivasis. Now we have even artists from established school of arts like AJ or from elsewhere and coming, and we try to give an exposure of even the indigenous world art. Like for instance, now not just indigenous art. Like let me show you this piece. Now, this is inspired by Picasso's pregnant goat. So this is Devrai pregnant goat, rock dokra pregnant goat. So ultimately, somewhere you realize that it's the collective consciousness of the world. And now each idea is, you cannot see it in isolation. It is the matrix that you have to explore, and that's where inspiration comes from.
And I think what you're saying is like in the sense that, my daughter's all grown up now. But I'm just thinking that if the reason I also wanted the audience to see that these are the kind of places that exist. You can actually take your children and just be there. Don't go there with this thing of, now my child is going to learn how to cast metal, artifacts. You need to take your children to these places to just simply understand the wonder of the place. And I think that's what I feel is so lacking, because everything about art is an aim now. Aim. It's like tick it off. This is done.
Mhm.
Tearing paper is done. Stick and paste is done. And now we are taking them out from writing that into another box like this.
Yeah, how rightly you've actually talked about and brought clarity to this. So art is not just this learning the skill of producing that. It's the whole thing. It's aesthetics behind it, and even a child discovers his or her own potential. Like when कभी when a parent comes कि हम ये मूर्ति छोटा सा बच्चा कैसे बनाएगा, तो playing with wax is like playing with play-doh. कुछ भी बना सकते हो. We are exposing the child. So, with us, not just the artists who come, but even a child from 6 years onwards, we take workshops. So storytelling, even creating small little things. Like for instance, Sonia, now this is a pendant created with, guess what? पार्ले जी बिस्किट. अभी पार्ले जी बिस्किट को हमने इसके ऊपर थोड़ा कुछ डिजाइन बना दिया, और इसका फिर the whole casting process a child of course will not do. So but that, अरे ये कर सकते, एक लकड़ी का टुकड़ा लेकर उस पे एक छोटा सा कीड़ा बना सकते, या जैसे I'm wearing this मधुमक्खी with a small stone. तो कुछ भी हम कुछ बना सकते हैं, क्योंकि ईश्वर की प्रकृति जो क्रिएटिविटी है वो चारों ओर बिखरी पड़ी है, हम उससे इंस्पिरेशन लेकर हम भी कुछ बना सकते हैं. तो like and this kind of simplicity is there in our tribal arts, like last month we had from Madhya Pradesh, two Gond artists. So they came, and so Gond artists is basically painting. But when they came, we converted it into rock dhokra. So ye unhone titli banai, and now this on a pebble, we made this with wax thread, and now this is a pebble with this thing. So it's intermingling of different art forms, which is also very exciting. It's not just taking inspiration, creating your own stories, but both in form and content. So telling different stories, and through different, creating different ways of expressing. So rock dhokra jab hum log ka successful hua, the fusing stone and brass, they never tried before this technique, and now it's under patent process. It opened out a whole lot of doors for us. तो इसके बाद तो फिर हम अभी ये जैसे ceramic and brass fusion. Now this is a tile from Jaipur. And Durga, show me all those jewelry made from broken crockery. So, we discovered that crockery के ये अगर आपका कोई कप फूट जाए तो उसका पेंडेंट बन सकता है, क्योंकि हम लोग उसमें जोड़ के ये बनाना शुरू किया. So,
my God, this is like the Japanese art that says that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see all this.
Oh my God.
So these are all our broken cups, and I am looking for all these things. Ye ullu bhi hai.
Oh my God.
And
Also, what I remember, we had this conversation, we were talking also that, while we are integrating digital, and we are growing dreams, and we are bringing out, a generation out of, their basic environment, what does it take to actually keep the art? We talk about art integration. We've talked, NEP has like these 2 pages, which everybody keeps quoting, Indian art, Indian this, Indian that. But finally, when you go out to buy, what do you buy? And how do we keep this art alive?
yeah,
Our art, how do we keep it alive?
yeah, absolutely. So art, I think, becomes a very powerful and an interesting hook to make you explore your own stories as well. Now, for instance, look at that dancing Nandi small thing. So now one has seen if we see, Nandi, he's always sitting in a seated position. So then the story which came to my mind was that ये नंदी बहुत बोर हो गया है, 1000 सालों से बैठा हुआ है. So he pleads with Shiva, मुझे आपके साथ नाचना है. So Nataraj and dancing Nandi. Now this idea of ours became so popular that we have, ये तो छोटा सा है, और हमने बड़े बड़े dancing Nandi with Nataraj और इस टाइप का बना है. So we are not only kind of creating stories which are linked with our cultural ethos, but making it, exploring, finding different ways of showing it. And yeah.
Today I must tell you, Mandakini, normally I quickly change and I come and sit at the session. But today, because I was meeting you, I actually took out pieces of art which I have loved. So they've been sitting in my,
I can see behind you some nice, interesting.
And plus, what I embroidered and what I actually dug it all out today. And my husband was telling me, don't you have a webinar? I said, yes, but this is a webinar with a difference. I'm not going to do it. So, even meeting people like you, I think for all of us in education, for all of us who are influencing parents, who are training teachers, I think first of all, we have to start thinking out of the box. Why cannot I use, simple tools, simple artwork? I don't see that happening in the classes at all, I must give you now that we're talking about art. I went to buy Manjira because I play music and I do storytelling. I bought a Manjira for 200 rupees. And he told me, listen to it. Then when I was playing it, I was like, okay. Then while I'm leaving, he's telling me, I'm going to give you a Manjira with 9 metals.
Ooh.
To listen to it. So I say, and then he says, so he said, see how long the echo goes. It will never come if your metals are not right.
Yeah.
So when people tell us only coding, science, look at the science of art. Talk a little about that.
Sonia, see, it is not just a coincidence that all our ages in history starts with, like, you have Stone Age, then Bronze Age, and then Iron Age and all. So it's with the use of a certain medium, a whole you are exploring science, everything. It's expression in art, but it's a whole civilization which is evolving with the use of a certain metal. The Stone Age culture is different from Bronze Age culture. And I don't know, abhi to apna internet age hona chahiye. It's a different medium that we are using. But when you are interacting with a certain medium, it speaks to you. It's not just that you are learning, but the medium also. And like you said, the entire cosmos is there in a piece of stone, provided you make those links. So that is what you have to create. That is, I think, the purpose of education.
Absolutely. When we spoke to Mansa last week, I was asking Mansa that how should schools and managements prepare for art curriculum. So she gave us proper, technical hints of this is what you should do, this is how you can set up your lesson plans, and etc. etc. And that was also very, very precise. Also, it was very nice that we met you after we've met her, because now you take us to the second plane of where we need to actually be to actually get the first plane right. So as educationists, I think this is also something which I will suggest to people. Some people who've never visited an art gallery, somebody who look for a particular cause at a museum, somebody who can't look at a piece of jewelry and say, oh my God, this is beautiful. I think we need to first get our minds the wonder of the tiniest things.
Absolutely.
So I think
so the challenge now, I think, which is how do you translate this into real, what you are grappling with, into actual, whether it is curriculum, and although it has become a interdisciplinary and across all subjects, but how do you, so you have to find these kind of themes. Like, I don't know, I was thinking like a theme like a river. So
Yes.
river can talk about the STEM subjects, geography, history, of course, culture, the arts on the banks of the river. So if you start with the river, which is in your close to you, and then how, and begin expanding to other rivers of India, then there's no end. Like, for instance, Durga just showed this. So now this, we made a whole series from the valley of Nile, so Egypt, to the valley of Krishna River. So in Rock Dhokra, we have made a strings. So it's like, you just need a hook, and then you can steer the educational, this thing, in any direction. Whether you want to address science through water, this thing, there's no end to it. So the idea is to make the process of learning, teaching, joyous, and drive that person to discover, just by providing these little inputs. Yeah.
Oh yes, I also feel that they are like once we're talking about the Devrai Art Village. I know that you do storytelling, you do imagination. Can you talk a bit about how that affects children and their thoughts and art, please?
Yeah, in a way, when we talk of art, it's both the storytelling is like, if we say time and space as two paradigms through which you explore creativity. So spatial arts, and then now I'm actually more interested in injecting time, the concept of time, and hence storytelling. So when you, even a piece of art tells a story, like ये जो है ना, ये छतरी है, ये orange peel की बनी हुई, and here this little froggy is actually sitting next to this orange peel dhoop, this. So it has a story. When even sculpture has a story, I found that it becomes interesting for the buyer. इसकी कहानी क्या है? क्या है ये? It's not like any frog. That is the difference between art, a piece of art, and anything. क्योंकि हर एक पीस की एक अपनी कहानी है. That's what makes it special. So the importance of storytelling, it makes a child will never forget, or leave aside a child, even adult. That's why all our stories अपने जो होते Bhagavad Katha or Mahabharat and all that, it's the metaphor which makes you, it enters into your subconscious, and that this kind of filter, even your values and all, you develop a filter in your, and which guides you through your life. So
I the other day I was listening to some young people on a digital marketing platform. They told me that, don't put up these bland posts. Tell us a story.
Yeah.
That become your creativity. So I said, oh, wow, yeah, that's a great thing to do. And, also what you're describing to me, one thing that is striking me also is that we actually have a lot of art around our homes and in paintings, in sculptures, in jewelry, in so much. Are we really ever using it in our learning and teaching systems? I think this is one thing which you put into my, consciousness, and I'm speaking to you, that I have never really used any of this.
Yeah. I'm sure you have been using, Sonia. I can't imagine.
Consciously, maybe you not like.
Yeah.
But this is something which is, and also this little one part before we kind of wind up is that the youth, the young generation that's moving in from traditional environments into the modern environments. I remember you spoke to me a little bit of what is it that we need to do to keep that essence alive, where they're actually, because when you talk of art, there is many times nothing written down.
Mm.
Generation to the other, to the other, to the other. And if there is a gap in that, what's really going to happen to all this art that we have?
Absolutely. And so this dovetailing into the education system, into the entertainment, whatever, like storytelling arts are disappearing. How does one bring it alive? So like, for instance, in our gallery, we have this big Iron Man, which has been made by our iron craftsmen. So I see little kids, their eyes lighting up. Oh, Iron Man. So, you have to make it interesting for the young generation. And once you get them hooked, then you talk to them about whatever you want to. You have them captive and they explore themselves deep uh, into the various wonders of whether it is the story.
Thank you so much, and very, very honored that you agreed to come
Oh,
on.
it was my privilege,
And
Sonia. Lovely.
I've
It was
been,
lovely
yes,
to
thank
be
you so
able to
much.
share.
And I have a long list of things that I have learned today. So after we finish that, we generally write it down and then we share it that this is what we learned today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Square, Panda.